Welcome back to N's Notebook LM. All right, today we're diving deep into the psychology of focus and distraction. We're going to be pulling directly from Nir Eyal's incredible work on how to become what he calls indistractable. So take a second, really think about it. It seems like just a fun little icebreaker, right? But for the author, Nir Eyal, this question turned into a really painful wake-up call. See, he was with his daughter just doing a normal parent-kid thing with an activity book, and this exact question popped up.
And he wishes he could tell us what her answer was. He really does. But he can't. Because right at that moment, just as she was about to share her big dream, he glanced down at his phone. You know how it is, just one quick thing. But by the time he looked back up, she was gone. The moment was over. He'd missed it. And that's when it hit him. The problem wasn't the technology. It was something way deeper.
So, okay, how do we fix this? Well, Eyal lays out this really powerful framework to get our focus back. It's basically a 5-part plan. We're going to start by understanding the real source of our distractions. Then we'll get into mastering those internal triggers. After that, we'll talk about making time for what actually matters. He calls this traction. Then we'll hack back all that external noise. And finally, we'll lock it all in with something he calls packs. It's a great system. All right, let's jump in. The real source of distraction. To really get what's pulling us off track, you've got to know that pretty much every single thing we do, every action, it falls into one of 2 buckets. It's either pulling you towards your goals or it's pushing you away. Okay, so on one side, you've got what Eyal calls traction. Think of a tractor, right? It's pulling you forward toward the things you actually want in life. And on the other side, you've got distraction. It's the exact opposite, anything that pulls you away from what you want. Simple enough? But here's the twist, the part that might just surprise you. The real root cause of all that distraction, it's probably not what you think. This right here is the absolute core of his entire idea. We blame our phones, we blame the apps, the notifications, but the real enemy, it's our desire to escape feeling uncomfortable. Think about it. When you feel bored or anxious or stressed out, what do? You grab your phone. Not because Instagram is so fascinating, but because it's an instant escape from that yucky feeling. He tells this amazing story about a Yale professor, Zoe Chance. She got totally obsessed with her pedometer, walking thousands of steps, even in the middle of the night. But it wasn't about fitness, it was about escaping the huge stress and uncertainty she was feeling about her job and her marriage. Okay, so if distraction is just us running away from bad feelings, then the first, most important step to becoming indistractable has nothing to do with buying a new app or switching to a flip phone. It's all about learning how to sit with that discomfort instead of running from it. This is a huge mental shift. We need to stop thinking time management and start thinking pain management. So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you manage the pain without just grabbing your phone? Well, Eyal gives us a super simple 4-step method. Okay, so here's the game plan for the next time you feel that pull, that urge to check your phone or whatever. Step 1, just notice the feeling that comes right before it. What is it? Are you bored, anxious, lonely? Step 2, write it down. Seriously, just naming the emotion can take away some of its power. 3, get curious about it. Don't judge it, just explore it. What does that anxiety actually feel like in your body? And finally, step 4, use the 10-minute rule. Just tell yourself, okay, I can check my phone in 10 minutes. You'd be surprised how often that urge just fades away. Okay, so dealing with our internal triggers, that's a huge piece of the puzzle, but it's only half the battle. Because think about it, you can't really call something a distraction if you don't even know what it's distracting you from in the first place. This is so important. If you don't have a plan for your time, believe me, someone or something else will happily make a plan for you. The solution here is a really practical technique called time boxing. What is time boxing? It's where you literally schedule out your day. You turn your values into blocks of time on your calendar. You decide ahead of time what you're going to do and when. And here's the cool part. If you schedule 30 minutes to scroll through social media, then it's not a distraction anymore. It's traction because you plan to do it. It's all about being intentional. So how do we figure out what to put in those boxes? Well, we can start by looking at our lives in 3 main domains. So you've got you, that's your self-care, your health, learning new things. Then you've got relationships, your family, friends, community. And finally, work, your job, projects, skills. Time boxing is just making sure your calendar actually reflects how important each of those areas is to you. It's about aligning what you do with what you value. All right, so we've managed the internal stuff, we've planned our day with intention, now it's time to deal with the outside world. All those pings, dings, and rings that are constantly grabbing for our attention.
And for every single one of those external triggers, you have to ask yourself this one critical question. Is this thing serving me, or am I serving it? I mean, if a notification helps you do something you plan to do, great, it's serving you. But if it's just pulling you away, then you're serving it. And we have got to stop being servants to our technology.
So it's time to hack back. Here is a simple 4-step detox for your phone. First up, remove. Just delete the apps you don't use or that suck you in. Be ruthless here. Second, replace. For those really distracting apps like social media, get them off your phone and decide to only use them on your computer at a specific time. Third, rearrange. Your home screen should be for tools, not toys. Shove all those distracting apps into a folder on your second or third screen. And finally, reclaim. Go into your settings and turn off almost every single notification. It's time to reclaim your focus. And that brings us to the last piece of the puzzle, our final strategy. So you've done the work on your internal triggers, you've time-boxed your day, you've hacked back the external noise, but let's be real, sometimes willpower just isn't enough. For those moments, you need what Eyal calls a pact. This is your last line of defense.
So what is a pact? It's basically a pre-commitment. It's a decision you make now, while you're thinking clearly, to stop your future, more impulsive self from messing things up. It's also called a Ulysses Pact, and the name comes from a really famous ancient story.
So the story goes, the hero Ulysses knew his ship had to sail past the sirens, whose magical song would lure sailors to their deaths. He knew he wouldn't be able to resist. So what did he do? He ordered his men to plug their ears with beeswax and to tie him to the ship's mast, with strict orders not to untie him no matter how much he begged. He basically made a deal to save himself from his own future impulses. And guess what? We can do the exact same thing. Eyal breaks these down into 3 main types. First, there's an effort pact. This is where you just make the bad habit harder to do, like using an app that blocks distracting websites for a few hours. Simple. Then there's a price pact. This one has some real teeth. You put money on the line. You make a deal where you literally have to pay a penalty if you get distracted. And finally, my favorite, the identity pact. This is all about changing how you see yourself. You start telling yourself, and maybe even others, I'm the kind of person who is indistractable. When you take on that identity, you'll start acting in ways to prove it's true.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. Becoming indistractable isn't about being perfect. It doesn't mean you'll never, ever get distracted again. Of course you will. It means you've done the thinking ahead of time. You've put the tools and the systems in place so that when you do get distracted, you can notice it and get right back on track.
It's not about perfection. It's about preparation. When you master these steps, you stop just reacting to everything around you, and you start living a life of true intention. So let's go back to that first question. The real superpower isn't flying or being invisible. The real superpower is being able to control your own attention. Because when you can control your attention, you can truly choose your life. If this topic has captured your interest and you'd like to dive deeper, the book is called Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life by Nir Eyal.